Here is something most people get completely wrong about healthy eating. The best food brands are usually the ones spending the least on advertising. Walk through Tesco or Sainsbury's, and the products screaming about superfoods and wellness are typically the ones hiding the most questionable ingredients. Meanwhile, the genuinely nutritious brands sit quietly on shelves, letting their ingredient lists do the talking. The data from ingredient databases, nutrition labels, and manufacturing transparency reports tells a clear story. The brands marketing themselves loudest as natural or clean consistently contain more additives, more processing, and more misleading claims than brands making no health claims at all. Today, I am sharing 7 UK food brands that are legitimately worth your money and 4 that are pretending to be healthy whilst quietly devastating your nutrition goals. I will show you what makes these brands different, why the alternatives are worse than you think, and exactly how to spot quality without needing a nutrition qualification. Stay until the end, because I am revealing the 4-step method I use in every supermarket aisle that filters out rubbish in under 20 seconds, whilst keeping your shopping efficient and your trolley actually nutritious. Let us start with a brand that has been doing things right for decades, whilst everyone else was chasing profit margins. Number 7. Yeo Valley Organic. Yeo Valley has been making proper organic dairy in Somerset since 1994. Whilst other brands were adding stabilizers and extending shelf life through chemistry, experimenting with artificial sweeteners, and stripping out fat to create low-calorie alternatives, they stuck with something radical: just milk and live cultures. Their natural yogurt contains 2 ingredients: organic whole milk and yogurt cultures. That is it. No modified starch creating fake thickness. No artificial sweeteners training your palate to expect synthetic sweetness. No thickeners compensating for stripped-out fat. No preservatives extending shelf life beyond what natural fermentation already provides. The texture tells you everything. It is thicker at the top where cream naturally rises, thinner at the bottom, and might have some liquid separation. That is not a defect. That is what real yogurt does when you have not added stabilizers to create artificial consistency. Industrial yogurt manufacturers train consumers to expect uniform texture throughout because that is what additives create. But natural yogurt has always had variation based on fat content settling. The fat content is around 4% because they use whole milk. That fat provides genuine satiety, carries fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, and signals to your brain that you have actually eaten something substantial. Low-fat alternatives strip this out, then wonder why you are hungry 20 minutes later, often adding sugar to compensate for lost flavor and creaminess. Check the organic certification. Yeo Valley's farms follow Soil Association standards, meaning no synthetic pesticides, no routine antibiotics in cattle, genuinely free-range grazing on organic pastures, and animal welfare standards significantly higher than standard farming. You are not just buying better yogurt, you are supporting better farming practices that prioritize soil health, biodiversity, and animal welfare over maximising output per hectare. The price point sits around £2.50 for 500 grams. Slightly more expensive than industrial alternatives, but you are paying for actual ingredients and farming practices instead of marketing budgets and chemical processing. When you calculate cost per serving and factor in satiety from proper fat content, the price difference becomes negligible compared to eating multiple portions of low-fat alternatives that never properly satisfy hunger. Use it for breakfast with fresh fruit and honey as a sour cream. Substitute in cooking because the tangy flavour works identically. Mixed with cucumber and garlic for proper tzatziki that taste like Greek tavernas instead of supermarket approximations, or just eaten straight because it actually tastes like dairy should taste without needing flavour enhancers. But whilst Yeo Valley handles dairy brilliantly, this next brand has mastered something even more fundamental. Number 6. Shipton Mill Flour. Flour seems impossibly basic. It is ground grain. Surely they are all identical. Except Shipton Mill in Gloucestershire has been stone milling flour since 1671, and the difference is genuinely remarkable. Their organic stone ground wholemeal contains one ingredient: organic wholemeal wheat. Not enriched with synthetic vitamins to compensate for industrial processing, not treated with improving agents to extend shelf life, just wheat that has been ground between stones powered by their watermill. Stone milling creates friction heat of around 40 degrees instead of the 120 degrees from industrial roller mills. That matters because excessive heat destroys heat-sensitive nutrients and changes protein structures. You are getting flour that retains more of its natural nutrition. The texture is noticeably coarser with visible bran flecks throughout. Bread made with this has actual texture and depth instead of that uniform sponginess commercial bread achieves through additives and processing. It firms up naturally after a day because it is real food behaving how real food behaves. Check the milling date on the bag. Shipton Mill dates their flour because freshness matters. Industrial flour sits in warehouses for months because it has been treated to remain stable. This is milled to order and should be used within a few weeks for optimal flavour. The price is around £3 for 1.5 kilograms, more expensive than supermarket flour, but you are paying for actual stone ground grain and traditional milling instead of mass-produced powder that barely resembles the wheat it came from. Use it for bread, pastry, or any baking where flour quality actually impacts the final result. The difference is immediately noticeable once you have tasted bread made with properly milled flour. Speaking of bread, this next brand has been quietly revolutionizing what supermarket bread can actually be. Number 5. Burtonnet Bakery. Richard Burtonnet opened his bakery in Bath, and his supermarket range represents something rare. Actual artisan techniques scaled up without compromising quality. Most bakeries go one direction or the other, proper craft in tiny batches or industrial garbage at scale. Burtonnet somehow does both. Their sourdough loaves contain 4 ingredients: wheat flour, water, salt, and sourdough culture. That is proper bread. Nothing added to extend shelf life. No emulsifiers creating fake softness. No preservatives preventing mold because the bread will not last long enough to develop it. The crust is genuinely crusty with that satisfying crack when you tear it. The interior has irregular holes from natural fermentation, not the uniform bubble structure created by commercial yeast and dough conditioners. It tastes complex and slightly tangy from the sourdough culture doing actual work, instead of fast-acting yeast rushing the process. Sourdough fermentation breaks down phytates that bind minerals and makes the bread more digestible for people sensitive to wheat but not actually celiac. The long fermentation also develops flavour complexity that quick commercial processes cannot replicate, available in Waitrose and some Sainsbury stores for around £3 per loaf. Expensive compared to industrial bread, but comparable to bakery prices, whilst being significantly better than most supermarket alternatives pretending to be artisan. The bread firms up after 2 days because it is real bread without preservatives. Toast it, freeze half the loaf for later, or just accept that proper food has a natural lifespan instead of surviving nuclear winter through chemical intervention. But whilst bread is important, this next brand handles something even more fundamental to British cooking. If you are still watching, you probably recognise at least 2 or 3 of these brands but have never actually bought them. That is exactly the problem. Quality products do not scream for attention because they are spending money on ingredients instead of advertising campaigns. But before you add these to your shopping list, you need to know about 4 brands pretending to be just as good. These have infiltrated health food sections with premium pricing and wellness language, convincing even nutritionists they are legitimate alternatives. One of them is literally positioned next to organic produce in Waitrose. If someone in your life is still spending £4 on smoothies, thinking they are investing in health or buying expensive snack boxes, believing portion control equals nutrition, they need to see what is coming next. Send this their way before they waste another £50 monthly on marketing disguised as wellness. Number 4. Hill Farm Oils. Hill Farm is a Somerset-based company cold pressing rapeseed oil from locally grown seed, and they have created something genuinely superior to the industrial oils dominating supermarket shelves through chemical extraction and heavy refining. Most cooking oils are produced through hexane solvent extraction, then refined, bleached, and deodorized to create neutral products with indefinite shelf life. This process destroys much of the nutritional value whilst creating oils that barely resemble their source ingredients. Their cold-pressed rapeseed oil contains one ingredient: British rapeseed, not refined through chemical extraction using petroleum-derived solvents, not bleached and deodorized to create neutral flavor that appeals to the widest possible consumer base, not blended with cheaper oils to reduce costs whilst maintaining premium positioning, just oil pressed from seed without exceeding 50 degrees during extraction, preserving natural compounds that refining destroys. The nutritional profile is remarkable and significantly better than alternatives. High in omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammation, naturally rich in vitamin E providing antioxidant protection, and containing less saturated fat than olive oil whilst being dramatically better than sunflower or vegetable oils. The ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is around 2:1 instead of the 20:1 you get from sunflower oil, which matters because excessive omega-6 consumption relative to omega-3 promotes inflammatory processes throughout the body. That golden yellow color and slightly nutty taste is not flavoring or enhancement. It is what rapeseed oil actually tastes like when you have not processed it into flavorless submission. Industrial refining strips out color and flavor to create shelf-stable neutrality. This retains character because minimal processing preserves natural compounds. The smoke point sits around 190 degrees, making it suitable for everything from salad dressings to roasting vegetables. You do not need different oils for different tasks because this handles the full range whilst delivering better nutrition than refined alternatives. Around £6 for 500 millilitres, significantly more expensive than industrial rapeseed oil, but you are paying for cold pressing equipment, local sourcing, and actual quality instead of chemical extraction and international supply chains, optimizing for cost above everything else. Use it for roasting, sautéing, or making salad dressings where the mild flavor will not overpower other ingredients whilst delivering superior nutrition compared to refined alternatives. This next brand might surprise you because it is handling one of the most industrialized categories in supermarkets. Number 3. Hodmedod's. Hodmedod's is a Suffolk company focused on reviving British-grown pulses and grains that disappeared when industrial agriculture prioritised imported commodities over local crops. They are bringing back fava beans, carlin peas, and quinoa grown in Britain instead of shipped from halfway across the planet. Their British fava beans contain one ingredient: fava beans grown in Suffolk and Norfolk. Not split peas dyed to look like something else, not mixed with preservatives, not irradiated for shelf stability, just dried beans that happen to be grown domestically instead of imported from wherever labour is cheapest. The environmental impact matters here. Pulses fix nitrogen in soil naturally, reducing fertiliser requirements. Growing them domestically eliminates shipping from Egypt or China. You are getting comparable nutrition while supporting agricultural diversity and reducing carbon footprint. The taste is noticeably different from imported alternatives. Fresher, cleaner, with that slight sweetness properly dried pulses have when they have not been sitting in warehouses for months or years. Cook them in soups, stews, or blend into hummus for something genuinely different from chickpea-based versions. Check their range beyond fava beans. The carlin peas are traditional in Northern England. The British quinoa proves you do not need Peruvian imports for trendy grains. And their flour products offer alternatives to wheat for people genuinely needing them, not just following trends. Around £3 for 500 grams, more expensive than supermarket own-brand pulses shipped from abroad. But you are paying for reviving British agriculture and supporting farmers growing diverse crops instead of monoculture wheat and barley. But whilst pulses are important for plant-based protein, this next brand handles meat in a way that actually respects both animal welfare and your health. Number 2. Eversfield. Organic. Eversfield runs an organic farm in Devon, supplying meat through supermarkets and direct delivery. They represent everything industrial meat production is not. Slow-grown animals, pasture-fed, slaughtered locally, and butchered on site instead of shipped to massive facilities processing thousands of animals daily. Their organic beef comes from cattle raised on grass and organic silage without grain finishing. That matters because grass-fed beef has higher omega-3 content, more conjugated linoleic acid, and better vitamin profiles than grain-finished alternatives. The fat is yellower from beta-carotene in grass instead of white from grain feeding. The taste is noticeably different, more complex, slightly gamier with actual beef flavor instead of the mild blandness of industrial meat, bred for fast growth and uniformity. The texture is firmer because muscles actually develop through movement instead of standing in feedlots. Check the certification. Organic standards mean no routine antibiotics, no growth hormones, higher space requirements, and access to pasture. The welfare standards exceed even high welfare labels like RSPCA Assured because organic certification encompasses farming practices beyond just animal treatment. The price is significantly higher, around £25 per kilogram for steaks, compared to £10 for standard supermarket beef. But you are paying for farming practices that do not externalize environmental costs, do not rely on prophylactic antibiotics, and do not treat animals like production units optimized for growth speed. Use it for dishes where beef quality matters. Slow-cooked stews, proper steaks, roasts where the flavor is central instead of buried under sauces. The difference is immediately obvious once you have tasted meat from animals raised properly instead of industrially. And finally, at number 1, a brand that has revolutionized something most people think is impossible to improve. Number 1. Pump. Street Bakery Chocolate. Pump Street operates from Suffolk, making bean-to-bar chocolate whilst controlling every step from sourcing cacao to wrapping bars. They represent craft chocolate at its absolute peak, showing what chocolate can be when you prioritize quality over cost optimization. Their Ecuador 75% dark chocolate contains 2 ingredients: cacao and sugar. Not soy lecithin as an emulsifier, not vanilla masking inferior beans, not additives extending shelf life, just cacao beans they roasted, ground, and refined into chocolate. The flavor is extraordinary, complex, fruity, with distinct notes changing as it melts instead of hitting one monotonous sweetness level, then disappearing. That is terroir expressing itself the same way wine tastes different depending on grape variety and growing conditions. Bean-to-bar chocolate preserves distinctions between cacao origins. Their Madagascar bars taste completely different from Ecuador or Grenada because they are not blending beans into uniformity. Industrial chocolate mixes beans from multiple countries to create consistent flavor profiles year-round. This celebrates variation. The processing method matters. They stone grind cacao instead of using industrial refiners that generate excessive heat. Lower processing temperatures preserve volatile flavor compounds that get destroyed during mass production. You're tasting chocolate as it is meant to taste instead of a heat-damaged approximation. Around £4 for 70 grams. Expensive compared to Cadbury or Galaxy, but you are comparing craft production to industrial manufacturing. The margin per bar for Pump Street is tiny compared to multinationals producing millions of bars daily through heavily mechanized processes. Use it for eating straight, not baking where subtle flavors get overwhelmed. This is chocolate to appreciate slowly, letting it melt and reveal complexity instead of demolishing mindlessly whilst watching television. Right. Those are 7 brands legitimately worth your money. But before we discuss how to identify quality brands yourself, we need to address 4 products pretending to be healthy whilst quietly undermining everything you think you are achieving. These brands have positioned themselves as health-conscious choices through clever marketing whilst delivering ultra-processed products that should never be considered nutritious. Number 1. Gray's Snack Boxes. Grays convinced Britain that portion-controlled snacks delivered to offices represented intelligent eating. The reality is significantly less impressive. Their products contain processed nuts coated in sugar, dried fruit with added sweeteners, and seeds mixed with flavourings that override satiety signals. You are paying £4 for 60 grams of snacks you could buy in bulk for £1, whilst convincing yourself that small boxes equal healthy choices. The portion control is psychological manipulation. The boxes are too small to satisfy actual hunger, but priced high enough that Grays extracts maximum profit from minimal ingredients. You end up eating multiple boxes daily, spending £20 weekly on what amounts to expensive trail mix. Unilever owns Grays after acquiring them in 2019. Yes, the company making Magnum ice cream and pot noodle now owns your healthy office snack brand. Number 2. Innocent Super Smoothies. Innocent position themselves as wholesome British values made liquid. The reality is fruit juice with trendy superfoods added in negligible amounts, then sold for £4 per bottle. Their Energize smoothie contains 33 grams of sugar per 300 milliliter bottle. That is over 8 teaspoons marketed as healthy energy. The guarana extract is caffeine, creating a caffeinated sugar drink disguised as nutrition. The superfood ingredients like spirulina are present in amounts under 1%, making them nutritionally irrelevant. They exist for label. Reading, not actual benefit. Coca-Cola owns 90% of Innocent after acquiring them in 2013. The corporation epitomizing sugary drinks owns the brand positioned as their antithesis, monetizing both sides of the sugar debate whilst British consumers remain oblivious. Number 3. Knacked bars. Knacked launched as raw fruit and nut bars with nothing artificial. The marketing worked brilliantly, positioning them as whole food nutrition in convenient form. Check the ingredients. Dates, cashews, raisins. Sounds innocent until you realize dates are among the highest sugar fruits available. One bar contains 15 to 20 grams of sugar, depending on variety. Yes, it is from fruit, but your pancreas does not distinguish between fruit sugar and table sugar when processing fructose loads. These are sugar bombs with nuts added, marketed as health food because the sugar source is dates instead of refined sugar. The dense, sticky texture creates slow eating that makes them feel more substantial than they are. You are consuming 200 calories of mostly sugar in a format that doesn't trigger proper satiety because it has been processed into bar form instead of eaten as whole food. Natural Balance Foods owns Nacti, and they have successfully convinced the health-conscious market that date paste mixed with nuts represents optimal nutrition. Number 4. Pip and Nut Almond Butter. Pip and Nut position themselves as premium nut butter, capitalizing on the almond butter trend whilst charging extraordinary prices for minimal value. Their almond butter costs around £6 for 225 grams. That is over £26 per kilogram for ground almonds. You can buy whole almonds for £12 per kilogram and grind them yourself in 30 seconds using any food processor. The product contains almonds, occasionally with added salt or sweetener depending on variety. You are paying a 300% markup for someone else, grinding almonds into paste, then packaging it with quirky brand copy about founders loving nut butter. The texture is aggressively smooth from industrial grinding that generates heat, slightly degrading oils. Homemade nut butter has more texture and tastes fresher because you made it minutes ago instead of months. They have monetized convenience culture, convincing people that grinding almonds is too difficult to manage at home despite requiring zero skill and minimal equipment. The truth is, you cannot rely on me listing every good brand, and new quality producers launch constantly. Here is my 4-step method for identifying legitimate quality in any supermarket aisle. Step 1. Check ingredient count. Pick up any product, turn it over. Count ingredients. Real food rarely needs more than 5 or 6 components unless you are making something intentionally complex like a specific cuisine sauce. If something basic like yogurt, bread, or nut butter contains more than 10 Ingredients question every single addition. Manufacturers do not add thickeners, emulsifiers, and stabilizers for your benefit. They add them to reduce costs, extend shelf life, or mask inferior base ingredients. Step 2. Identify processing indicators. Look for specific words that signal industrial processing. These are red flags indicating the product has been heavily modified from its natural state. Words like modified, hydrogenated, hydrolyzed, reconstituted, isolated, or refined indicate processing beyond what traditional food preparation requires. Emulsifiers, stabilizers, thickeners, and preservatives all suggest a product engineered for shelf life rather than nutrition. If oils are refined, bleached, or deodorized, they have been chemically processed instead of cold-pressed or stone-ground. If proteins are isolated rather than present in whole food form, they have been extracted and reconstituted. Step 3. Verify marketing against reality. Check if front of packs claims match ingredient reality. Products screaming about being natural, wholesome, or nutritious often have ingredient lists that tell different stories. Look for specific percentages. If coconut milk contains 5.6% coconut, it is coconut-flavored water, not coconut milk. If juice is from concentrate, it has been reconstituted from frozen paste, not pressed fresh. Check for hidden sugars listed under alternative names. Glucose syrup, maltodextrin, dextrose, fruit concentrate, agave nectar, rice syrup, and dozens of other terms all mean sugar by different names. Manufacturers split sugar sources across multiple ingredients to prevent sugar appearing first on labels. Step 4. Compare price versus whole food. Calculate whether the convenience product costs more than buying base ingredients yourself. That £4 smoothie could buy 2 kilograms of actual fruit. That £3 meal replacement could buy chicken, rice, and vegetables. If you are paying triple the cost of base ingredients, the markup is funding marketing, packaging, and processing, not better nutrition. Quality ingredients do cost more than cheap alternatives. But there is a difference between paying for better ingredients versus paying for convenience and branding. Check the supermarket's perimeter versus center aisles. Produce, meat, dairy, and bakery sections contain actual food. The center aisles contain products engineered for shelf stability and profit margins. Real food spoils because it is real. Products that survive months or years have been processed to make them inhospitable to bacteria and mold. If microorganisms will not eat it, why should you? We have reached a point where ultra-processed products dominate supermarket space whilst real food gets pushed to edges. Manufacturers engineer products specifically to override satiety signals, creating consumption patterns that benefit profit margins rather than health. Your defense is knowing what quality actually looks like. Not trusting marketing claims or Instagram-worthy packaging, but reading ingredient lists and asking whether what you are buying resembles actual food or industrial approximations thereof. The brands I have shared today prioritize ingredients over marketing budgets, traditional methods over cost optimization, and actual nutrition over engineered convenience. They represent what food should be when you remove profit maximization from the equation. You vote with your wallet every time you shop. Buying from companies prioritizing quality signals, demand for better products. Avoiding ultra-processed garbage signals that marketing psychology does not override informed choices. The shift starts with you reading labels and questioning every claim manufacturers make. So what is your take? Already buying some of these brands? Shocked that Innocent is owned by Coca-Cola, or that Graze is just expensive trail mix in small boxes? Drop a comment because I want to know which quality brand you are adding to your shopping list and which processed product you are finally ditching. And if this just saved you from wasting money on marketing-heavy products pretending to be healthy, share it. Send it to anyone still buying Nact bars thinking dry dates are health food, or grabbing Innocent smoothies believing they are nutritious. They deserve to know what quality actually looks like versus what marketing departments want them believing.